Welcome back to the Salty Podcast, episode 34, where it's always a great day to talk about sailing. I'm your host, Capn Tinsley of sailing vessel Salty Abandoned in 1998 Island Packet 320. Tonight, my guest is Leonard Rodriguez from sailing vessel Terratima, an Island Packet 465. Leonard and his crew, his family, recently completed an incredible extended sail from British Columbia, Canada to Mexico, navigating the challenging waters of the West Coast. Excuse me. I'm going to tickle. We'll dive into their experiences of highs and lows of their journey and and the things that happened along the way. So on their epic journey. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's set sail on this amazing adventure. Welcome, Leonard.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here, and I'm sorry I'm about to cough, but give me 1 second.
No problem.
You might have, you see me coughing, just keep talking, okay? So, so thank you for coming on. And I think you go by Len as your name tag there
yes.
says.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were just talking prior to. Tell people how long you've been living on the boat, when you bought the boat, and when you left going south.
Okay. The boat is a 2008 Island Packet 465, and we bought her just after she was built, and it was commissioned in 2009, in June of 2009. So we bought her when we were living in Alberta. And we took delivery of her in the United States, actually, at Point Roberts, just south of Vancouver.
Okay.
So we were still just in a transition between being Alberta residents, and ultimately, because of the boat, we had sold our house and so forth, and the boat became our home. And so since June of 2009, we've actually been aboard her the entire time, and in a couple of different marinas and sailing hither and yon. But we've never left her, so we've had her home with us now. I don't know how many years that is, but it's got to be pushing 13 or so.
Yeah, and I saw on your blog that you don't miss the things you put in storage. Is that
We
still the
do
case?
not. In fact, I couldn't tell you what story. and I think my wife has a better idea of what it is that we actually had decided to hang on to and put into storage as opposed to getting rid of.
So it's a pared down version of what you used to have?
Oh, I would say drastically pared down. It's a fraction of what we have. Because I think, like many people, you end up being a bit of a pack rat, and you accumulate so much stuff. But we found that most of it, things like my tools for woodworking and so forth, I sort of gave to my brother-in-law. So it's in his basement. I'll use it if I ever have the chance of going into his basement. But that's what we generally did. So it was a drastic downsizing. So we moved out of a 1,750 square foot bungalow into which had a finished lower level, so really over 3,000 feet. And we moved into a boat that is 50 feet long and 14 feet wide at its widest point.
All right. Well, so what
inspired
you? What inspired you to buy the boat and move on to it?
The sailing bit has been with me for decades. I mean, it goes right back to being in college and learning to sail and sailing with the sailing club and so forth. This particular boat, I was looking at boats you can live on, and B, that was capable of offshore safely. So
Sure.
We were looking for a boat that had a full length keel that was relatively heavy, and very strong. So the research pointed us to a few boats, but in this particular group of offshore boats, there isn't an extensive list of manufacturers. And Island Packet is certainly one of the best known names in that group. Oddly enough, the picture you had up just a second ago was when we first saw her in the in Cole Harbor. This is Cole Harbor in Vancouver. And we went to Cole Harbor purposely to take a look at this very boat because it was on our list of an island packet. Can we actually see an island packet in the flesh? So we flew from Edmonton, Alberta to Vancouver, went down to take a look at this boat, went aboard. To say we were impressed was an understatement. We couldn't believe the amount of room inside, the sense of daylight inside. It looks much larger inside than it is outside, believe it or not. And the biggest issue was if we were going to live aboard this thing, if my wife walked aboard the boat and said, "I can't do this," because it's dark or whatever, then it died there, right? But she walked.
That's
She
a
walked.
common
She walked
tale.
down. Yes, it is a common tale. She walked down the stairs of the companionway, and she said, "This is beautiful. I can definitely live on board this boat." So here we are.
Oh,
We
that's
ended up
beautiful.
the guy who was the builder on this thing said, if you're seriously looking at this boat, we can probably make arrangements that you can purchase her. It took about a year, or about several months, but we did buy her.
And why did it take a year? Because they were building
And
it,
then
or
commissioning. Well, they built it in 2008, and then she kind of sat in a boat show for a little bit. So
oh yeah, okay,
it was kind of built so it was taken from Florida over to Washington, and then from Washington up to Vancouver. So that's when we saw her, and ended up buying it. So it was a few months before we got things sorted out.
very nice. I'm sure that you were
And
excited.
it had to be commissioned, so everything had to be added. All of the systems had to be added, radios, everything had to be added.
Right, and I'm sure you've updated some things since then.
Yeah, to say the least, a few things, and part of it, yeah, part of it being just basic wear and tear, right, on a number of items. Like the sails began to get a bit soft, the old sails, and so we ended up going to Max Sails in Florida, and we had
Wow.
Our new Genoa made and our new staysail made. My rigger here in Vancouver is actually a Max Sails dealer, so that's how we connected with Max Sail. And
Okay.
we ended up
I'm gonna
having.
have Colin Mack on the podcast. I know his brother's the
Oh,
one that does
excellent!
the sales.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't miss that. That'll be really good.
Yes. Yeah.
So we left Vancouver with the two new forward sails, but it became pretty evident as we were sailing down the coast that I needed to replace the mainsail. So I actually got on the satellite phone and called my rigger and said, "Put in an order for a mainsail. I'll pick it up in San Diego," and that's
Wow.
what we did. So
That's very cool. So that was that the first time in 2021 that you made it like an extended sail? I think I saw on your blog that you did some some other sails, but maybe not quite as long.
No, not quite as long. We'd be gone for 2-3 weeks at a time. But it was the country up here in the Pacific Northwest to sail is absolutely spectacular sailing, and it's difficult sailing. I mean, the whole place is a submerged mountain range. So if you're sailing into Puget Sound and up into the Broughton's and over in Desolation Sound and so forth, you're doing some of the best sailing that's available on the planet. So you get really good practice at tricky tides and so forth. The one thing you do not experience are swells of any magnitude, because it's protected by Vancouver Island, right? I mean, but
Okay.
I've been on the outside of Vancouver Island as well, and into those.
I'm going to
swells.
pull that up. I'm going to pull up the map.
Okay.
So exactly where are you right now?
We are in downtown Vancouver in a place called False Creek.
And then
our boat sits in a marina called Spruce Harbor Marina. Spruce Harbor Marina is actually a housing cooperative. It's the Greater Vancouver Floating Home Association cooperative. And that's where we
okay, I
live.
found it. Okay, and then a little bit later on, after we talk about your
Curious
sail,
sailors in this marina.
let's see.
Okay.
After we talk about that, I want you to also, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, I like to get talk to people about their favorite anchorages. Like I'm thinking you might mention that you might mention.
Oh, you mean some of the anchorages?
Yeah, like in Cabo and everything. But if you do you have a favorite anchorage here in Vancouver?
Believe it or not, yeah, I do. And it's a simple one called Clam Bay. So Clam Bay is that's our marina, by the way, the one with the radial layout.
Wow, that's an interesting shape.
It's actually, it is, yes, and it is actually a housing co-op, believe it or not, and it's and it was originally built in the late 70s, and there are people here who were there from the beginning, who are living on their boats. So,
so are you were able to purchase your slip?
No, what we do is purchase shares in the overall cooperative, and we are assigned a slip.
Oh,
and
okay.
Every so often there's a slip becomes vacant, and we have a bit of a shuffle depending on seniority of the kind of thing. It actually works quite well. Where you see the little red teardrop, that's actually a kind of a central building that has a lounge and so forth connected to it.
Let's see if I can get a view of it here.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. And that's downtown Vancouver, right across the way.
Oh, wow. So you're right in the thick of things, and this is all protected.
I'm right in the thick of things, exactly.
So what happens in the winter?
It rains a lot.
Because we don't our water doesn't. Does your water freeze?
Oh no. First of all, it's salt water.
Yeah.
Even in some places, sometimes the fresh water will freeze, but the climate here is extremely mild, so we don't see a lot of snow or ice. The last few years we've had some snow, but what happens is the same as Seattle. it's rain city, right? It starts raining in late September or mid October, and it just keeps raining until March or April. So
Oh,
it
wow.
gets very wet.
Okay. All right. So now tell me, what did you do to prepare for what made you say, let's go to Mexico?
Um, I don't think that kind of just popped in as an obvious way of starting off the whole process of dealing with uh, setting out on a journey. We thought Mexico would be a great spot to go. Um, but the biggest challenge is heading down the United States West Coast, right? And this is um, the thing particularly that was always concerning is what happens when rivers meet the ocean. Um, so bars and bar reports, I had to get familiar with what bars and bar reports were all about. Um, and we had to pay real attention to them, and we got a taste of what happens when you've got a bit of a rough right on leaving Newport, for example. It was pretty rough going through the bar and out into the open ocean at that point, just simply because of what the weather had been like the previous few days of wind and so forth.
Well, I
So
just interviewed somebody last week that's heading out down the West Coast, and she said she wants to stay about 150 miles offshore because it's going to be so rough because it's shallow.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. You're committed to whatever weather you end up with, and lots of people do that. They'll go 100, 150 miles offshore, and their next stop will be San Diego or Ensenada, wherever they check into to Mexico. We decided not to do that because we wanted to actually visit a few places. We
Okay,
we
so where was your
definitely
first
wanted to
stop?
go. Uh, so our first stop was Newport, Oregon. So we kind of timed our departure from Nia Bay in Washington, rounded the Cape, and headed down to Oregon. Sorry, and and we ended up going into Newport, and we ended up in Newport for 5 days, primarily because of extremely high offshore winds. Um,
Okay.
we had intended to leave earlier, but we just sort of sat out the weather window until we had better winds. But that was good because we got a chance to visit a few things and we were very near a really great uh, sort of brewery that had a fantastic restaurant connected to it. So we had lots of lunches there. But so that's what we did. That's what we did for 5 days in Newport. Um, then
So
the
here it
next
is.
stop, yeah, the next stop was Crescent City. So that was a reasonable sail, and we had a reasonable weather window for it as well. Um, so the interesting part, as I said, was leaving Newport. We timed our departure. It ended up being at midnight, um, in the dark, no moon, um, leaving Newport and encountering very rough water as we crossed the bar and headed out offshore.
Here we go.
And then we headed south. There we go. Um, uh, and it was fine, except we contacted. There was about 3 boats that sort of suddenly appeared, and one particularly behind us indicated that their radar was out, um, and and
Uh-oh.
and it ended up we had thick fog that morning as the sun rose, and I mean thick fog. So our radar was operative and so forth, and so we were following one other boat that was ahead of us, um, but the one without radar came relatively close to our position and just hung on to us as we started to head in the channel to um, the sort of enclosed bay that Crescent City has, where you can anchor. We opted to actually go into the marina um,
Yeah.
in that particular instance. So,
How long did it take you to get to Newport and then to Crescent City? Trying to get an
it was
idea.
actually only it was actually only an overnight sail. I think it was a fairly short distance. Um, but we caught there too for a while,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, we were we were in Crescent City for 5 days as well, again because of winds. But the winds that we were concerned about were down at Cape Mendocino. So as we head south in Northern California, that cape was showing winds just west of the Cape of like 60 knots. So we did not want to.
Is this it right here or this area?
Yeah, if you have to go in a little bit. So there's Crescent City, Eureka, and then there's the Cape Mendocino. It should be labeled.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't see the particular label, but capes generate their own weather, and that cape is just notorious for high winds and odd weather. So when we left 5 days later out of Crescent City, um, our router, the Giffords, were doing our routing for us. Uh, Bayhan Gifford and her husband, and it looked like a reasonable weather window, and it looked like we would have quartering wind at our backs, and that would be a great sail. Turned out that there's a local phenomenon nobody knew about, and the entire distance between Crescent City and Cape Mendocino was high winds, 25, 30 knots on the nose.
oh,
So
wow.
we were, yes, so we were slogging into this stuff uh, to
And
get
going
down
slow, I'm sure.
and going slow for sure.
Yeah.
And it was pretty rough. But once we actually got to the Cape and rounded it, everything improved. We had really good sailing conditions, and then we continued on from there. Um,
And then where was your
and
next stop?
Our next stop was San Francisco, actually,
Mm,
and
okay.
um, and we went into Drake's Bay before San Francisco to just time our entrance into the Bay Area, because in the afternoon, the late afternoon, the winds tend to be a bit contrary. So we decided to anchor overnight in Drake's Bay, which turned out to be really a wonderful spot to stop. And and then the next day, after breakfast, we upped anchor and headed into San Francisco Bay, which
Oh,
was going
okay.
under the Golden Gate with a bit of fog hanging around it, which for us on
Oh, wow.
board was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
It was, oh yeah, this was something we dreamed about, right? About going under the Golden Gate Bridge as we San Francisco Bay. It was fantastic, and we ended up staying at a marina on the far side of the bay, and and spent 5 or 6 days there, but being tourists more than anything else. It was just
Oh, and what was
huge
the
fun.
name of the marina?
I'd have to look it up. I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but it was on the far side um, of the bay. So we had to basically sail across, and it was in
Oh, here's a big
relatively
marina.
shallow water. It's a
Is it
relatively
Berkeley
shallow.
Marina?
No, it's near Berkeley Marina, though.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'll
Now,
look it up.
I've
But
heard that it's
yeah,
it's kind of a rough bay. I've been there. I've been to San Francisco, but not by boat. And I took
yeah,
the
it
ferry to Alcatraz. But
it can be
it's a
very
pretty big
windy
bay.
because a big bay and you've got winds coming in a gap that goes under the Golden Gate. So you can get the winds accelerating and um, and pushing a fair bit of water as it does that. Um, but the bay is a delight, and there's just lots of boats. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of commercial boats and sailboats. So
Oh,
you
really?
kind of got to keep your eyes out. Yeah, if the weather is good and the winds are up, people are sailing. So
Okay,
um,
here's an Emery Cove Yacht Harbor or
yeah, that sounds close to it. Yeah,
Emeryville Marina Park. Well, yeah, okay. Well, so you enjoyed that. How long did you stay in San Francisco?
how about 6 days? Um,
Okay.
that was that was huge fun. Uh,
Yeah,
so when we
that's a nice
decided
rest.
to, yeah, it was. So when we decided to start heading south from there, um, the we actually went into Half Moon Bay, which is just outside the Golden Gate and kind of around the corner as you head south. So we poked in there and anchored overnight, uh, just to get just because of the time of day that we left San Francisco Bay. And then we
Okay.
headed off, and our next stop after that was Los Angeles. Um,
Okay.
so we sailed for quite a while, and and uh, and the one thing that I was a bit ignorant about um, is I didn't realize there was so much offshore um, oil rigs and so forth
Oh.
along the California coast. These things are enormous, and there are a lot of them, um, more than I ever would have expected. Um, they're particularly prominent at night because they're lit up like Christmas trees, so you can really see them. But there's a number of them as you head down. So
I interviewed some
that was a bit of
people
a
that
revelation.
I interviewed some people that were sailing off the coast of Louisiana, and they talked about that, or off the coast of Texas,
Yeah,
well, and Louisiana, but that they weren't all lit up.
yeah. Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
I hate for them not to be lit up when you're sailing at night, especially if you have no moon. And I was joking with one of our crew that was with us, and he said that he'd heard about one guy who fell asleep crewing the boat and actually rammed into one of these things in the
Oh my
course of
gosh.
falling asleep and not paying attention to where they were. Um, Not a good idea. I don't think they're enormous.
No.
Um, but you know, you don't normally you associate California with surfing and you know, a lot of wonderful restaurants and stuff like that, and um, you don't think of oil rigs, and you know,
No.
Texas comes to mind when you think of oil rigs, but but
Right. The Gulf
there
of
are oil
Mexico.
rigs and a number of them offshore. Um,
So where was your next
as,
stop?
as, so our next stop was was Los Angeles, and we went into and we stayed there for a number of days too, purposely being tourists. Um, uh, but uh, we went into what's the big Marina del Rey.
I see it.
Was a marina which was a marina we went into, and we found a spot, fairly inexpensive spot um, to tie up on the right side of that picture of that channel. As you were going in, I think you see that there's a park there, Um, and there are some slips that belong to the park authority, and that's where we ended up staying. Just a little bit in, yeah, right there. You can see that park.
Okay.
Those slips in front.
Right.
We were in one of those.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, these right
we were in
here?
one of those. Yeah, those right there. We were in one of those for the duration, and we just take Uber to get around.
I
To get
bet
around
were those a
LA.
little more cost effective than the ones over here?
Oh yeah. The other places were filled and difficult to get
That's
a
a lot
slip,
of
and once you got
slips.
a slip, yeah, it's a big marina. Holy cow! Um, so it was much more cost effective. That's it right there. Yeah, that looks very familiar.
Is
That
that your
looks
boat?
very. I don't think so,
Look
but it
how
could well
little
be.
that boat is in that big slip. Those are
Yeah,
nice slips. Are those floating docks?
yeah, they are, and they are very nice slips. And there's a couple of boats in there. There was one boat next to us, and I struck up a conversation with the skipper. Um, that was about half the size of ours, uh, and he was about to leave for New Zealand.
Oh wow.
So this was some serious offshoring in what I thought was a much smaller boat than what we had. So more
Do you
power
remember
to
the
him.
name of the boat? Do you think I could interview
No,
him?
it'd be wonderful, but I can't remember the name of the boat. Sorry about that.
All
So
right. So how long did you stay there?
at least a week, and then we headed down from there over to Catalina Island. And we only ended up
Oh,
staying in Catalina in the bay in Catalina overnight. But it has what has to be the funkiest mooring system I've ever seen. Um, so the way this works, um, so that main if you go to Catalina Island and you go into the main, uh, there's this wonderful bay.
right here.
Let's see. No, that wouldn't be it. Um, let's
Is it
see.
on this side?
Yeah, there it is, right there. Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's facing the
Okay.
coast, and you see
All
the
right.
radial way that the boats are laid out. Um, when you
Yeah.
arrive at when you arrive there at it's Avalon Bay. When you arrive there, you're met by a motorboat, and the motorboat just
Okay.
inquires as to whether or not you want to merge for the evening and so forth. Um, Once you've sort of answered their questions, they will lead you to your mooring, and
Okay.
they will lead you into the mooring. And there's a mooring ball at the front of the boat, um,
Right.
and it has a kind of a thing that looks like a whip antenna. You pull that out of the water and you put it on your deck. Um, but what it does is it raises a line that goes from uh, the mooring ball at the front, which is reasonably large,
Mm-hmm.
um, to an anchor point at the back. So you tie off that mooring line that you lift out of the water at the forward cleat on your boat, and then you walk it back to the aft cleat on your boat. So all the boats will stay in their relative position front to back in that radial layout. So that's what it looks like. You can see the mooring balls, which are reasonably large. Um, and once you pull that little item out of the water and you connect it to your cleats, you're held in position relative to the other boats, so nobody's slamming together. So
Right.
really clever. I've never seen another one like it, um, but really clever way of handling
Does
it.
it act as a bridle? It's a bridle.
Uh, well, it is because there's a 2-point connection, right? So there's a forward and aft connection to that piece. So then when you're leaving, you let go of the aft portion of it
Okay.
on your cleat, and then you let go of the forward before you actually
This
move
looks
away.
like a fun place. What did you
Yeah,
go out and explore all this?
not a lot. There were a lot of parties going on around us, and so yeah, I would say that yeah, Avalon Bay is a fun place.
Yeah. I've heard of Catalina Island and that it's gotten very protected and everything. I saw a
Yeah,
documentary about it.
yeah. So
Look at these people.
yeah.
Okay, so how long were you there?
Oh, just overnight. And then we headed back toward the coast because we were trying to get down to San Diego to spend time there. Um, so we ended up,
So you went down to San
Carolyn.
Diego.
Where did we stay in when we left Catalina? Pardon? Hey, I can't remember we kind of ended up staying overnight one other location on the coast, and the name of it I forget. It was uh, let's see if we go on Oceanside. That's it. So we went into Oceanside
Oceanside.
for 2 or 3 nights. Um, there it is. There it has a
Oh
it
yeah.
has a yeah, it has a kind of a crazy entrance. Um, but we were actually moored. See where that green teardrop is? There's some boats lined up. Yeah, just there, right there, along the dock there. That's actually that's actually the Coast Guard dock, but we were allowed to dock there. So, but you've got to be prepared
Oh, I
to.
love it.
Yeah, it's a very nice spot. Restaurants all around. It's kind of surfing is happening right on the beach. Very nice place. Um,
I love a good side tie, especially when I'm solo.
yeah,
I can
yeah,
get in and out easy by myself.
yeah. That's exactly what
Well,
we were thinking. Uh, but you've got lots of friends hanging out in the form of a bunch of seals. Um, they're all over the place.
oh, so this looks like a fun little place too.
Yeah, that was a fun little place as well, and well worth walking around. I think
So how long were you there?
just a couple
Oh, here's a
nights.
fish market, a deli and fish market.
That's right. That's one of many. The ones on the other side of the marina are just line the streets as you go up. So lots of spaces to eat and so forth.
Over here?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so you're making your way. Where's the next stop? San
So
Diego?
next stop, San Diego, and that was an interesting. Um, that was an interesting sail. We really enjoyed it going down. San Diego has this
And I've
hook.
been there too, not by boat, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of boats there.
Oh yeah.
Big
and
marinas.
this was just before
Is
the
this it
ha
right in
ha
here?
ha ha. Yeah. Now our where we ended up sailing was in Chula Vista. You see where Chula Vista is on your Chula Vista Marina, which was well down
Was it in here?
that. Yeah, you see where it says Chula Vista. It's right just a little bit above where you're showing. Just move up a little bit.
Is this it? No?
No, it's on the other side. No, it's on the other
Okay.
side. It's on the other side of
Over
the.
here?
That's it right there. Okay,
Okay.
that's Chula Vista Marina. It's a very nice marina, beautifully kept up, and where we ended up swapping out our mainsail. Um, was here at Chula Vista. So we were here for like 2 or 3 weeks. We were timing our departure to to the day after, 2 days after the departure of the Baja Haha, so we weren't caught up in that craziness as we were heading. So I highly recommend this marina. The only
Yeah.
downside of it is it's a long way up from when you enter into the harbor at San Diego, and you go all the way down Battleship Row there, because all of the maintenance facilities are en route down there. There's a whole series of, you can see all of those large installations of docks that are on the shore side as you go down the bay. You got aircraft carriers and destroyers and frigates of every description as you go down. Quite interesting. The other thing was, we did it in a thunderstorm, so it was raining like crazy as we went under Coronado Bridge. Huge amount of rain.
So how long did it take you to go from around here to?
About 3.5 hours
Oh,
to get.
you mean from
Yeah,
here?
from the mouth of
From the
of going into the bay to Chula Vista is a 3-hour motor
Wow.
to get down. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it
where?
took a while to get down there. So when we decided to leave, again, it took that long to get out of there, and we made sure that we refueled and had everything ready to go heading out. So we left San Diego with the intention of checking into Ensenada. So that was essentially an overnight sail.
Okay, my camera moved, so let me just fix this.
Okay.
Huh. Give me 1 second.
Oh, there you go.
Sometimes it likes to follow me.
There you go. Okay, so
right,
next stop, Ensenada, and that's where we checked in. The checking in process was fairly complicated, and you needed an agent in order to do that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So, and the location that we had to go into in Ensenada, there are 2 marinas. One is in the town itself. So if you go in there it is right there. But that's not where we
Right
were.
here?
Yeah, that's not where we were. We were up to the you see the other marina up to the left, a little distance away. That's it right there. That's it right there. And the hallmark of this particular marina is it has absolutely the craziest currents we've ever seen. We had to use 4 lines to secure the boat.
In there?
In the slip. Yeah.
Wow.
It just wild currents at the only time they let up is at slack tide, but at ebb tide and flood tides, the boats, like all of the boats are moving like all the time except for slack tide. So it's associated with a hotel that's there. That's quite nice. You get access to the pool and so forth. and they provided, the marina provided the agent that would work with us to get us all checked in. So so a van picks you up at the marina here, takes you downtown to the check-in location, and helps with translation and distance away. You better make sure you've got everything you need, the boat registration, your passports, everything that you possibly need to go through the process of checking in.
Okay. And then how long did you stay there?
I don't know. I think we were probably there about 3 or 4 nights, and then the next stop was actually going to be Cabo San Lucas. So now we're heading out on several days sailing to get to Cabo, with our first stop along the way intended to be Turtle Bay. At a time after the madness, that is the that once that's done. So the Baja Haha was had already come through. When you get into Turtle Bay, after that, there may be about, I don't know, you'd have a lot if you had a dozen boats there.
Well, you see the comment at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, I tried to get a comment to last week's guest, taking the IP40 south from BC, but you should mention the Coho Ho Ho rally from Port Sound to San Diego. I'd never done it. I know all about the Baja Haha rally because I've looked into that quite a bit, and it was definitely San Diego to Cabo, and it reputation for every place it. So when you go into Turtle Bay, fuel will be scarce after that. When you go into Cabo,
Okay.
you don't try and fuel up until the whole group from Haha have kind of settled down and began to disperse. Many of them will head further south, and some will round the corner up to La Paz and so forth. But getting fuel, it's a big deal.
Okay.
Because so many people have come in, they're low on fuel, they've got to get fueled up, and there's a bunch that may be in the marina. There's a whole bunch that are anchored out in the bay. So following the Haha was interesting. Let's put it that way.
So Augustus is saying they're both well-run, fun rallies, buddy boats, radio checks,
they are
camaraderie,
fun
all good.
rallies. Yeah, all good. It's just when you're not in the rally and you're sort of following them,
So it's
there are
better to
consequences.
it's better to go ahead, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thanks,
so
Augustus. Good to see you again, Augustus.
this was a point where we ended up having a major failure on our boat, which was our water maker, which we've been using extensively. The water maker was fine. What wasn't fine was our inverter. Our water maker is powered by an electric motor, so we use the inverter to power the electric motor. We thought we had enough wattage, but it turned out we didn't, and we actually burnt out the inverter. So,
oh no, yeah, I think I saw that on your blog that you had to
so
get a new
luckily,
inverter.
I had to get a new inverter, but I sure as hell wasn't going to buy it in Cabo San Lucas. So it was a good thing that we had just at Turtle Bay filled up with our tanks, our water tanks.
Right.
So we had ample water for a crew to head down to Cabo. So we opted to go into 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 the marina in Cabo, just to sort of survey what the problems were and sort of check into where the best place would be to actually replace the inverter. And we actually enjoyed the stay in Cabo. We were there a few days. Got some information on that the place we should definitely look to repair it was Puerto Vallarta. So
Okay.
Puerto Vallarta was the stop.
I'm looking for
after this one. The marina is up to the right. You need to go up the other way. Over
this
to
way.
the right. There it is. Right there. You
Oh,
see that gap? There it is right there.
yeah. Okay.
And it's surrounded by shops and hotels and so forth. But there's a little place that we discovered called Monkey Business, and if you like margaritas, Monkey Business has the most extraordinary margaritas, and it's right next to
Okay.
the. It's right in that area where it says Cabo Tequila, just top of the marina. The other way up. Yeah, there's
Oh, yeah.
a little side street right down there that where this place is located,
Right here.
and it's in that group of buildings, and it's called Monkey Business, and it's fabulous. It has margaritas in the biggest colorful art glasses that you've ever seen in your life, and they've got all sorts of different flavors. And don't drink two because you'll never be able to walk out of the place. So.
Okay. All right. So where did you go next?
Actually, straight to Puerto Vallarta. It was so our next sail is now across open ocean to Banderas Bay to the south, which you can see Banderas Bay and Puerto Vallarta there. So we sailed straight across. Most of the sail was actually pretty benign, but the last, I'd say the last portion of it, half day at least, through the night and into the next morning, was 30 knot winds. So so it was really quite interesting. So we ended up making Puerto Vallarta marina by noon 2 days later after leaving Cabo. So 2 full nights of sailing, and it was just the three of us, my wife and my son and myself, crewing, going down.
I was trying to read that Spanish. There was a message that was sending Spanish.
Yeah, my
You
Spanish is non-existent because so.
My name is Senorita name. Okay.
So Puerto Vallarta was where we actually got the had the inverter replaced, and we went. The
inverter,
the power's the water maker, and we got back to using the water maker, and but it's now a 3,000 watt.
Wow.
3,
where is the?
watt. Is
there a marina in here?
Yes, if you go
one.
to yeah, it's not that one though. If you go to keep going over, that's La Cruz, which we did go into, by the way. Um, but after our stay in Puerto Vallarta, so if you go over to the right on your map, um, keep going.
Keep going.
Yep. No. Yeah. There. Keep going. There's a big gap that opens up, and there's a marina that's
Right here.
There you go. Okay. So you come in, and the cruise ships actually come in there.
Oh, wow.
So we go in, and off to the left after you've come in. So on your port side, as you're motoring in, you go down that gap, and
Down here.
yep. So all the way down that gap to the marina itself.
And was it just in one of these slips here, or
that doesn't look right. No, that doesn't look right. Let's go a little bit further.
is this it?
Further, can you move out a bit? Let me just see. Let's go down a little bit further. Did we miss? There we go. It says where you see it says Marina Vallarta. That's where we went in. So that's where the cruise, where your arrow is now. That's where the cruise ships park. We were in there, parked in there. And
okay. Now, what kind of, do you remember like the prices for these?
These weren't particularly cheap. It's a well-run marina. It's all gated. It's actually quite all right, but we had to get some repairs done. So now the upside of this is that you can walk around the entire marina, and everywhere you go, there are restaurants. There's housing all the way around, so plenty of places to eat. We were there through Christmas and New Year's. New Year's, there were parties along the whole stretch of the marina at the various restaurants. So we had a New Year's dinner there, and so nothing but good things to say. But we also had really good attention paid to the boat in terms of replacing some elements, including we actually had to have
I lost our place.
It says Puerto Vallarta.
What was it called again? Yeah, but you went south of that, right?
No, we were in Puerto Vallarta itself, so it's just north of there. There you go. And there's the gap that goes into the marina. Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you there?
We were there quite a while. We were there a good 3 weeks, through Christmas and New Year's.
Wow.
And it took that long to get parts. We had to order the new inverter. We had to, at the same time, we ended up having our shore power charger fail. So we ended up replacing that as well. So
so Augustus is asking a question.
Yeah.
He says, "Did you make it to the hidden beach inside Islas Marietas?"
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think my wife did either. But
do you know where that is?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, we did a lot of walking.
Thanks
along
for the
beach.
tip, Augustus.
Yeah, but that's a good one. We should write that down. We really did like Puerto Vallarta. It was a fun place to be, and the old town. Taking an Uber into the old town and walking around, and well worth it. Well worth it. So our next stop after repairs and so forth, was La Cruz. You saw that earlier. That marina that was to the west of so La Cruz. Yes, the second one on your list there. There it is. That's it. So, right. So right there, you can see the little marina. If you go in, and this is also a fun place.
Little marina, huh?
Well, it's a pretty big marina. It's a much smaller town, uh, but you see that whole area, the breakwater itself. That entire
Over
area,
here.
all the way down, all the way down that breakwater, and where it dog legs and continues to the marina facilities itself and the marina offices, which are near that parking lot. Every Sunday they have a market there, and you have got to go to this market. It is filled with umbrellas and places that people sell all sorts of different things. You can see it's quite a nice location. But that market has tremendous amount of stuff, all sorts of food, all sorts of clothing and other things. We were really interested in the food. So it was excellent.
So
So
Augustus says
we
just off
recommend
Puerto
dropping
Vallarta. So Augustus is just off
like
Puerto
Bluewater.
Vallarta. A hidden entry, very
Hint.
cool. Look it up online. Yeah.
Oh, will do. So we
Thank you,
were there
Augustus.
for a couple of weeks. It was a couple of weeks.
I think so.
Yeah, we were in La Cruz for a couple of weeks. We enjoyed it so much. So we attended two of those Sunday get-togethers. Then our next stop was Mazatlan. So we left La Cruz early one morning and rounded out of the Banderas Bay. And I should caution people to the west of this as you leave Banderas Bay. If you can just scroll up a little bit.
Is this it?
That's La Cruz. Yes, that's going into La Cruz. So if you so leaving La Cruz, you're now going out into the ocean again, and you have to kind of come around what defines the northwestern edge of Banderas Bay in general. So if you can scroll up, just zoom out a bit. If zoom out the okay, you can see you got to kind of go out and come around the corner as you leave Banderas Bay to head north, right? The trouble was
you got to head north. You were heading north.
Okay, yes, we were heading north. So we're heading out Banderas Bay, and then you can see the point up there. So you got to round the point, and then head
Right here.
and then yes, and then head east after you've rounded the point. But in rounding the point, we noticed something that we should just point out. I don't know whether it's been corrected. We had navionics charts on our chart plotter, and you can see there's a number of offshore rock outcroppings, and there was quite a large one that we could see from the boat, no problem, and nothing showed up on our charts. at all.
Oh,
So you don't want to
you talking
encounter.
about like right here,
No, I'm talking
or
about a bit further out from shore.
oh,
There's some fairly major. There you go. Some fairly
geez.
major rock outcropping, one of which did not show up on our charts.
This is what he was talking about right here, Islas Marietas.
There it
He
is.
said there's
Okay.
a beach there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So he said there's a beach. So I don't see the beach, but oh, over here, maybe. Did you stop there? Here's
Mm.
look at this, Playa Escondida.
There you go.
Playa is beach. Gabby wants to know the link to your blog. Okay. The name of his website is SV Terratima. Oh, I do have that on here. Hold on. I'll bring it up.
Where?
There it is.
That's it. There it is.
Where you saw that trailer that you're filming there? Really?
Do you
Hasn't been
have all the
updated for a
places
while.
you stopped on your?
Uh,
Well, people are going to be demanding this.
okay, I'll make it a point of updating the blog because I actually did prepare a presentation for the office that I work in, of all of the stops that we made,
Oh,
including which I have. So I should include that. So
yeah. Maybe you can
so
post
it
that
was
on your blog.
yes, that'd be good. We ended up sailing up to Mazatlan. Turned out to be
I'm
kind
not
of a
sure why my
weird.
internet is so slow.
It turned out to be a weird sail through the night because we were surrounded by freighters of every description. I could very clearly
Really?
see them on my AIS on my chart plotter, but
Right.
the freighters aren't lit up that way. They have their navigation lights on, but not a lot else. It's no problem seeing. Oh boy, it is inside the island with a circular opening overhead. Wow.
Yeah, I
Now
saw
that
something labeled
is
Playa
unique.
Escondido.
Yeah, it's right there actually. A little bit further.
It was labeled. Oh, there it is.
There it is
Looks
right
like a
there.
little
Yeah.
sand trap for a golf
Yeah.
course.
But from the shadow it's
That's
casting, it looks like a deep,
interesting.
deep opening. That's extremely interesting.
Hey,
Anyway,
Augustus, is this a golf course? Just kidding. Okay.
so
Guess you
anyway,
can't get on there.
the
Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. Look at
isn't that
this.
interesting?
Oh, looks like the water comes in. Augustus,
Well,
you're the
that is,
man.
yeah, I'd say that's incredibly unique.
There's a little too many people there, though. What do you think?
Yeah, well, try 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 the Copacabana Beach or Ipanema. It's much
Well,
different.
I bet you a ferry brought these people out, so you have to work around that.
Anyway, so we went into Mazatlan, and we were there for 2-3 weeks as well, having quite a had to
Positron.
take Ubers or taxis into locations because the marina was a bit more remote from the center part of the city. So, but sailing up during the night, I had to be constantly checking the chart plotter and on my toes the whole
Okay,
time.
you said Mazatlan.
Mazatlan, just there it is.
Mazatlan. Okay,
Mazatlan. Yeah.
is that it?
There she
Here we
is.
go.
And we have to go to Marina Mazatlan, which you can see labeled there to the north. Whereas the central part of the city is to the south. And so you go in that very narrow, there it is, there's the marina. And you go in that very
came in here?
narrow pathway, which at low tide, you better stay to one side or you'll run aground. It's very shallow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
These are
and
very
everybody,
interesting marinas. Look at this out here.
yeah, really wild. Some new stuff going on here as well, being built out and so forth. So this is obviously a kind of a new area that's.
Look at this comment.
Augustus
says,
"Is this
He's
rich
on
vein of information that I had no idea about?" Wow.
Yeah, he came on last week when I was interviewing somebody who's about to leave BC and she's about to go around the world. She's plans to be gone like 10 years. And he came on on last week too and was commenting. He's a West Coast guy. He knows. So we're Dudley Moore ran on the beach dreaming of Bo Derek. That is so funny.
So this marina turned out to be
Gabby has a
quite a nice
question.
one as well. Yeah.
Gabby says, have you experienced any issues with the drug cartels along the Mexican coast? Mazatown is in Sinaloa, and their cartel is powerful. Oh, boy.
We had no issues at all.
Yeah, you weren't trying to horn in on their territory, so they probably left you alone.
Yeah.
That wasn't your business there.
Yeah. Definitely. So this gives you a good idea of what it's like. It's just a word about the marinas. All of the ones that we were in. It's really good to tune in. Usually around 8 o'clock in the morning. To the marina net. They've got nets on VHF radio.
Sure. Like they do in the Bahamas.
Yeah, well worth it. Well, a huge amount of information from the locals or the people who've been there for a while. It was very useful in Mazatlan, even finding places to get stuff because people have been in the marina for months or in some instances a couple of years, and they're just a wealth of information. And every morning they're on the net at 8 o'clock. So we would tune in and listen and ask questions and so forth. So well worth it.
So Augustus says, I'm bi-coastal, last IP on the East Coast, but I've sailed Louisiana to Maine via the canal. It's intercoastal, lots of West Coast races. Call me Goose, please.
Call me Goose.
Okay, Goose. Like Maverick and Goose.
There you go.
Talk to me, Goose. Oh, that is cool. Okay. So I take it this was also... Go ahead.
What was that? I was just going to say
that was an expensive one
final
too.
stop. Our final stop was La Paz, which is across the Sea of Cortez from Mazatlan.
Okay, the Sea of Cortez.
So we've got to go across the Sea of Cortez.
And I don't know where that is.
Yeah, just you're basically in it. Just scroll over to the left. Just scroll over to the left. Just keep going, and you'll see the south coast of the Baja Peninsula. There it is. There. Okay, so you see where it says.
So you're back. You're back at Cabo.
Yeah. So that sail.
Yes.
That. So La Paz was our last stop, and we really like La Paz. It's a wonderful town. The boats that are anchored, there's lots of boats that are anchored in that, particularly in that gap between the outcropping of land and where the town is. You get lots of boats in there,
Right here?
but it has. That's right, but
Okay.
it has the funkiest tides, and the boats tend to sashay around, doing what everybody calls the La
Okay.
Paz waltz, and you get anchor chains get tied up with one another, and there's an art to anchoring in this bay. But this is
So
where
did you like this anchorage?
no, we didn't anchor actually. We ended up going into a marina that was on the far north end of La Paz City. So if you go up the
Right
coast there a
here?
bit, no, a little bit further up, it's yeah, scroll up, keep scrolling up, keep going, keep going. Yeah, there it is at the top, right there.
Right here? Is that it?
It's a bit more remote, but it's for us. So that's we ended up
Is
going
this
in.
it right
Yeah,
here?
right there. To
Okay.
return to Canada. Yep, that's it. Except we were
This
in
is
the
good
inside portion
information.
around that bend.
Right here
Um,
and here.
uh, yeah, if you go a little bit further to the right, a little bit further over, you'll see that there's more to the marina. Just keep going over to the right.
Oh, this is nice and
There you
protected.
go. Yeah, yeah, it's
Oh my
extremely
gosh.
protected, and there's some restaurants along there and so forth. But you probably won't spend a lot of time at the restaurants there. You'd probably just take an Uber into La Paz itself and hang out for the day and come back. But it's a nice protected marina.
Yeah.
But at this point, we made the decision to get the boat back to Vancouver, and we ended up putting the boat on a freighter in order to do that.
Yeah, I read that.
And the freighter picked up the boat in La Paz, in a bay that was not far from the marina that we were in. There's
I want to
little,
see
just
that
a little,
bay.
yeah. If you want to just go out and now if you go up the coast from there.
Am I going in the right direction?
You are. There it is there.
Here?
Right there.
Here?
Yep.
Right here.
Right there. Right there. It was in that bay that the freighter anchored, and we had to go out at 4:30 in the morning, take the boat out. To answer Gabby's question, we had it for a year.
Okay, so you can get different lengths of time.
Yeah. So
Okay.
anyway,
But they do have
the
year. Okay.
so so we had to go through a fairly complicated process in order to book the space on the freighter to get out, and then to go through the quote checking out procedure for the boat itself.
Mm-hmm.
Remember
Well,
when we
can I
came
ask you
into
something
Ensenada?
about the freighter?
Yeah.
Is it one of those that you float on it, or did they have to like take the mast off and everything?
No, they what they do is they have a crane, and the crane has
Okay.
straps that go under the boat, and they lift the boat onto the deck.
And so you don't have to do anything to the boat?
So, yeah, the only thing we had to do to the boat was we had to, because of the limitations of the straps and so forth, we had to release the backstays on the boat in order to for the crane to negotiate thing to haul it up.
Oh, gosh, who did that?
It's a little bit. the crew on board the ship. It's a little intimidating because you're bringing your boat up against this wall of steel, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you're not in that protected an area, so it was a little choppy, and I had every fender out to protect us from. So they throw you down some yellow ribbons, and you tie your dock lines to the yellow ribbons, and then they haul your dock lines up and they tie you off at their deck.
Oh my
So there
gosh.
you are, hanging in the water with your dock lines up on tied off to a cleat on their deck, and then they tell you to leave.
Oh
So
my goodness.
so you've got to have everything stowed away, all the canvas stowed away. Our sails had been stowed away. We did it a couple of days prior. Um,
Do you remember the name
so
of
that
this company?
I can actually get the name to you, but I don't recall it off the top of my head. There are several
This is
companies
something
like
that
this.
I'm sure that people would want to know, you know.
Yeah, it's so you shut everything off. You got to shut off the batteries, shut everything off, and then finally um, they get a panga, a couple of Mexican crew in a panga to take you back to the marina. So that's what we did, and we stayed in a Airbnb until our flight out back to Vancouver.
We got to
a few
read
days
this
later.
comment from Goose, aka Augustus. Gabby, if you stay in a marina, cartel members may approach you, ask you to pay cartel members for extra security. Be careful if that happens, but don't complain to the marina or the police.
Oh
Well, you
yeah,
didn't have
okay.
any of that happen, right?
Never happened.
Thank
Never
goodness.
happened. Thank goodness. So
But thanks for
so
Gabby
that
says
was our great adventure. Once we got back, once we flew back, the most stressful part of everything was actually the airport in Cabo San Lucas. It was
Oh,
madness.
really? Why is that?
Like,
Why is that? Because you had to
number
wear
of
a
people. It
mask
was
and all
like,
that.
well, no, that had no bearing on it at all. It happened to be spring break.
Ugh. Oh my gosh. So but there were Americans and Canadians everywhere?
Everywhere you looked, and they had come in on private jets as well as commercial jets, and it was just madness. Um, so
Oh
anyway,
my goodness.
we flew back to Vancouver, and not long after we arrived in Vancouver, the ship carrying our boat docked at Ogden Point in Victoria.
That
And
quick?
in 6 days, it took 6 days to get up
Oh my
to.
gosh. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so in 6 days, they were back. Our boat was back in local waters
Oh
again.
my gosh. I know that made you feel good. So Gabby says the police are as corrupt as the cartel.
I believe that.
Well, goodness. So that is amazing. So you got the boat. I was imagining it was going to take a long time when you said you had it shipped back.
No, it only took 6 days.
Now,
It
can you
stopped
give
at.
us an idea of how much that costs?
I will tell you exactly how much it cost. It cost
Okay.
20,000 Canadian dollars. Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, how much is that in? She has another question. How much is that in American dollars, U.S. dollars? I can go
I don't
ahead and
know,
do a little. Let
15,000 maybe.
me figure it out. How much?
Maybe 15,000. That ours is about 30% greater. So
To USD. Let's see. Well, for today, it is 14,580.
yeah.
You were
So
right.
that was like.
Did you find a lot of American and Canadian retirees living in Mexico, especially
Oh,
liveaboards because of the low cost of?
absolutely, absolutely.
I think Gabby's trying to
Lots,
make a change here.
lots and lots.
Okay, so Goose says municipal police are infiltrated. Federales a little less so. We're getting the good information, aren't we?
Goose is a source of all sorts of great information.
I told Goose last week that he needed to come on the podcast because he's
He's a wealth of information.
he is. So we've actually gone longer than any of my other podcasts, but we had to finish the trip. So we've been
Sorry
on
about
here.
that.
No. This is great. If people don't want to listen, they don't have to listen. But I want. Oh wait, Goose says there are Costco and Sam's Clubs in most of the cities.
Yeah.
Did you do any
In
shopping at those?
There's just about everything you can think of. Walmart's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Goose, email me, saltyabandon@gmail.com. We're going to have you on the podcast. Maybe Lynn will listen to that podcast. So is there anything that you want to add? I do have some questions here. Did you manage the roles of your family? How did that? I noticed you said that
That all worked out
your
quite
wife is
smoothly.
the admiral.
Yes. we did 3-hour watches.
And your son was on there too, Christopher?
He was. Yeah, he was.
That's good. That's a nice number of people. I mostly like to be on my boat by myself or with my husband, but when I guess when they're family members, it's different. Let's see. During the more difficult now, what's your biggest takeaway or lessons learned from this trip?
Uh,
You got to ask some meaningful questions.
Okay, I think this gets to the point. It doesn't matter how much you prepare, something's going to break.
Yes,
something's going to break, and I can guarantee you, it is not going to be a convenient thing. And then you have to deal with it. So, in our
now you
case,
mentioned the handler of checking into the country. You have to get a hand.
You have to get an agent, known as an agent.
Okay.
And the agent kind of represents you and helps with the processing of all of the information. And I don't know what it is about the Mexican bureaucracy, but they are really good at just
making it complicated.
Making it complicated. Yeah.
When I was in the Bahamas on my boat, I had to have a cell phone mailed to me. That was a nightmare. It never made it out of customs, and I had to just come home and buy another cell phone. But people were saying next to me on a boat in the Bahamas, their water maker broke, and they had to have it shipped. They had to hire a agent just to get that handled because they wouldn't be taxed, like to avoid the big tax that those people have to pay. And
I believe it.
Yeah. So I guess it's something similar to that. Let's see. What's next for you and your family, you and the crew?
I don't know. We're going to play it by ear. At some point, we'll probably end up back on land as I get a bit older and so forth. But for the moment, we've had over a decade aboard Terratima, and she's been a great home.
15 years. So Gabby wants to know about what makes the western part of Canada such a wonderful sailing area.
It's complicated. As a submerged mountain range,
lots of rocks
on the coast. Lots of rocks, lots of tricky tides, lots of tricky. For example, you've got to time things as you go through various passes. For example, if you want to go from here on the mainland over to the Gulf Islands, for example, to sail the Gulf Islands, you have to go through one of two passes one is called Active Pass, which the ferries go through, and the other is called Porlier Pass. There's a third one a little further to the north, but it's not used that frequently. But in both instances, you really aim for slack tide. If you don't aim for slack tide, it can be a little hairy going through it, because in a sailboat, what's your top speed? 7 knots flat out.
Yeah.
8 if you're a bigger boat. You've got currents that could be running at 5 knots easy.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah, I've got
so
27 horsepower.
So you've got to watch
Yeah.
it, right? So as you go through the Gulf Islands, you can see them there. It's kind of hard to distinguish, but there are passes, and then there's all sorts of issues as you're within these particular waters as well. Again, because it is a mountain range that's submerged, right? But
Right.
it's
So
but you learn
lots
how
of
to
hidden
sail.
rocks.
You learn how to sail. You learn how to anticipate. You learn how to time your movements. All stuff you need to know.
And if, in case you weren't on here, Gabby, he said it doesn't freeze. The water doesn't freeze there.
Nope.
Well, that's cool. Well, okay. Well, I guess that's it. I'm going to try not to cough as we end this. Thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But
this was
that's
fun.
what I like to do. I like to give information to people. This is a great route. You got some people that, excuse me, what a nightmare with the cough. Some people like to anchor out more. Some people like to stay in marinas. And here's another Spanish one. I wish I could. Can you translate that for us?
Not me.
It won't let me copy and paste it so I can translate it.
Yeah.
Gabby says, great podcast as always. Thanks for the info. Okay. Thank you,
Well,
Gabby. Thanks for coming
for
on.
Thanks for
And,
having me on.
Yes, this was a
And
blast.
thanks for listening to our story.
Yes, thanks for, and there'll be people that listen in the replay, excuse me, and on the audio podcast. And with that, I'm going to end it so I don't quit coughing in everybody's ear and face. And now the way I like to end it
Take
is
care.
Salty. Thank you, Salty Abandon out.